If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me tell you, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Trust me, if I can do it on Anchor, anybody can do it on Anchor. Besides being easy, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from either your phone or your computer. And best of all, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. And you can hear it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and many, many other platforms. So it is really like one-stop shopping, everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So really, if you're into this and you want to do this, Anchor is the place to go. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Celebrities, they're able to get this misinformation out there.
Today on Spot On, we're going to find out who you should and shouldn't be listening to for your health, nutrition, and wellness advice. This is Spot On, a health and wellness podcast for college students, soon-to-be college students, or anyone that knows a college student. Spot On breaks through the latest health and wellness information hijacked from media headlines to provide you with accurate and usable information that is, well, spot on to meet your needs. I am your host, Dr. Joan Salge Blake. I am a nutrition professor at Boston University and the author of the college textbook called Nutrition in You, which is used in colleges across the United States and abroad. Do you listen to the advice of celebrities for your health and nutrition and wellness information? Today's episode, we're going to be looking at this and just how sound the advice that comes from these celebrities. Let's go to the street and find out if college students are looking to celebrities for their health and wellness advice.
I don't follow any celebrities specifically for their health and wellness. I don't work out, so I really don't have a vested interest in it.
I follow Kayla It Signs, and it's a fitness Instagram, and I really like it because she gives a lot of helpful tips in terms of how to work out, but also in a healthy manner.
I don't follow any particular health and nutrition influencer, but I definitely look on my Explore page on Instagram and just see what different people recommend.
I do follow Holistic RX for health and fitness and nutrition.
I never felt the need to follow somebody who has 7 abs plus also does sit-ups with their baby. Those people are very, very weird to me.
I'm a vegetarian, so sometimes it's nice to see more adventurous things that they make.
So I don't really think they've accomplished anything in life, so I don't think their advice is valid in really any way other than the fact that they have a lot of people following them online, so I try to avoid it.
I follow the Kardashians. It's hard, honestly, but I'm so curious.
So, based on what we just heard from the streets, I guess Dr. Kardashian is very important when it comes to finding out about nutrition, health, and wellness advice. Let's find out if that's really one of the best sources you can go to. I am so excited today to have on Spot On Tim Caulfield, and he is a professor, faculty of law and School of Public Health at the University of Alberta in Canada. So he's going to be actually calling in today from Canada. Also, Tim, I asked Tim to graciously send me his resume so I can read up a little bit about him. And Tim, when I went to print it out, we ran out of paper because the resume is 500 pages long. Do you know that?
That's not true, but I've been involved with a lot of things. I feel fortunate.
That's good. That's good. All right. You were also voted Alberta's 50 most influential people in 2016. My goodness gracious. He is the author of The Cure for Everything, Untangling the Twisted Messages About Health, Fitness, and Happiness. That was by Penguin. And the second book, which I absolutely love, is Gwyneth Paltrow Wrong About Everything, How the Famous Sell Us Elixirs of Health, Beauty, and Happiness. And that was by Beacon Press. But your most recent adventure, which is fabulous is you are the TV host and co-producer of the Netflix series A User's Guide to Cheating Death. And I have watched this, and this is absolutely fabulous. So how did this all come about? How did you become, this warrior against crazy advice that's not based on science?
I get asked that all the time, and I wonder if I just have some kind of predisposition to be annoyed by misinformation, because it really, keeps me up at night. I get so upset when I hear something ridiculous in the media, particularly if it comes out of a celebrity's mouth, but really anywhere. But you know how it happened? Probably this, very similar to your career. You just start noticing it increasingly, and you start seeing this greater and greater disconnect between how it's being represented in the public sphere and what the science actually says. And so we started doing more research on that question, right, on and how this stuff is all represented in the public sphere. And that kind of drew me increasingly into working with the popular media and doing stuff like we're doing today. So, I love it. And I think it's becoming increasingly important with all that misinformation that's out there right now.
No, I mean, as we heard from the clips on the streets, these celebrities really have a strong influence on everyone, not just college students, but everyone. And why do you think that? Why are they have this, charismatic hold on us in a field that they are not trained in, like health, wellness, and nutrition?
That's a great question, and I think it's complex because a lot of people will often say, "Oh, why do people listen to Gwyneth or to Tom Brady even instead of an expert?" And I don't think that's exactly what's going on. People don't believe Gwyneth Paltrow is an expert on, gut health or has, great scientific credentials. I think what happens is that celebrities, their megaphone is just so large, and they're able to get this misinformation out there. And there's a lot of really interesting research that shows just being exposed to misinformation, like just being exposed to the noise can have an impact. It's called the mere exposure effect. And that's why fake news can have an impact, even if we know it's not true, right?
Right.
It can still have an impact because it keeps these myths, this misinformation alive. And so I think that's one of the things that's often underplayed in the context of celebrity culture. Katy Perry's got over 100 million followers on Twitter, right? And when she says something silly about supplements, a lot of people see that. And there's really interesting research that shows that just seeing that, it becomes more believable, it seems more credible, just because you're able to recall it. And the other interesting thing is research shows that you'll actually invent a more credible history to your belief. It wasn't Katy Perry's Twitter feed, you read it in a credible news source someplace. And I think that really does have an impact on all of us. The other thing, of course, that's going on is personal branding, and celebrities play a big role. And as you know, in food, this is really important, right?
Right.
People, Gwyneth's got a great brand, and people may not necessarily feel she's a scientific expert, but they may still be drawn to her brand, right? And so people make purchasing decisions, and we all do this, all of us, based in part on how we want the world to see us. And so celebrities do a great job of saying, well, this is what this purchase means, right? This is what this consumption means. And let's be honest, she's got a great brand, and that has an impact.
This is really, Tim, this is not a new concept, because if you go back into television advertising, you remember when stars started to pair up with coffee, or aspirin and do commercials, and it sold the product. So when you think about it, it's really nothing new. It's just but now the product that they were advertising was just coffee, or it was aspirin, and we know what aspirin did, and there's scientific studies on it. But now these celebrities are just going off on their own and coming up with their own, support for any product or any new gimmick that's out there, and it's really it's unbelievable. Gwyneth Paltrow, this whole book that you wrote on Gwyneth is just eye-opening. And I was on her website this week, Goop, and what is some of the craziest things that she sells?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? So she sells products that are bogus, but she also sells ideas that are bogus, right? Some of the classic ones are the vagina steam. Yeah, I'm sure you heard about that. The women are supposed to detox their reproductive organs through a vagina steam, which is, not only is it scientifically ludicrous, it's also potentially dangerous. She has pushed the ideas that you're supposed to let bees sting your face as an anti-aging approach, and of course, that could result in anaphylaxis. And there's been situations where it has resulted in anaphylaxis, right? She also pushes things like colonics, and when I was writing my book, I actually got to meet with Gwyneth's doctor in Hollywood. I cannot believe he agreed to meet with me, but he did. And that's one of the things he recommended I do as often as I could, get a colonic, right? For the show, Joan, we interviewed someone who got a colonic, and I can't even remember if this made the edit. He got a colonic 50 days in a row because he just got a divorce and he thought he needed to detox himself. That could really be harmful. I'm almost certain it was harmful, when you get it done that often, right? So, these are just some of the ideas. But then she also pushes, Wi-Fi causes cancer, bras cause cancer, and then, all these kind of extreme diets and crazy things about crystals. I could go on and on.
I'm not really listening to you because I'm still on the 50 colonics. I can't get past that. I'm saying to myself, did the man leave his house for 50 days? I had to, oh my goodness. No, it is. I was looking at this website and I'm saying, you got to be kidding me. And the interesting thing is the amount that people will pay for anything on the website. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. So it's almost now, I don't mind that they have clothing or, beauty supplies or anything as far as if they're going to do like jewelry and things like that. But when you start coming into the health and wellness arena and you do things like you just said, which not only are not based on science, but potentially dangerous. I mean, do you know if she's ever been sued or for saying something or doing any harm?
She has, and in fact, if there is any kind of light at the end of the tunnel, I think we are starting to see more pushback. So, in California, a Truth in Advertising organization, in fact, it's an NGO. We've actually been in contact with them. Did bring a Truth in Advertising complaint against Gwyneth. I think it was over 50 of her products, statements that she's made, and they won. And she had to pay, I think, $145,000 in damages, which isn't a lot of money, but symbolically, I think that is really important, right? And one of the reasons that's important is because a lot of these regulatory mechanisms, Truth in Advertising, and even to some degree the FDA, they're complaint-driven, right? So people have got to speak up. So that's good news. A similar action is happening in the UK right now against Gwyneth. And I think you made a really important point. When I first wrote the Gwyneth book, a lot of people would say, "Oh, relax. This is just for fun. No one takes this seriously." Well, a lot of people do take it seriously, unfortunately, and she is representing this stuff not as some kind of like fun astrology for entertainment purposes. She's pushing it as if it's scientifically accurate and has real health implications, right? And so she really is inviting the world to take this stuff seriously, and I think that's problematic.
Right. And, if anybody, any celebrities, cross the line and do that, what I'm afraid of, not only will they be harmful, but they might prevent a person from going for good medical care and do this as an alternative, thinking this is going to solve whatever their medical issue is. So it could delay treatment in getting care, and that really scares me.
It scares me, too, and there's research to back up exactly what you just said. A very recent study came out, and it found that 40% of Americans, 40% believe alternative treatments can cure cancer. So we're not talking about, wanting to do mindfulness to help with side effects or yoga to help with your quality of life. We're talking people believing alternative medicine can cure cancer. that is dangerous. In a study that we just published in Lancet Oncology on crowdfunding for alternative therapies, we found that a third of the patients were foregoing conventional cancer treatment because they found an alternative treatment that they were crowdfunding to get money for.
Right.
So you're right, and I think we can tie it to the magical thinking that is pushed by pop culture more broadly, right? So that creates this tolerance for this kind of noise. Now, look, I really believe that if there's an alternative therapy that works, we should keep an open mind.
Sure.
But we should use, if it's being portrayed as if it's effective, we should use science in order to make that determination. And for most of the stuff, the evidence just isn't there.
Right. And you know what I do? I teach a big intro to nutrition class here at the university, and really, it's for non-majors. So these people do not necessarily have a medical background, nor are they going to go into the field. But I always say that you're going to leave me, and you're scaring me, because I want you. I'm teaching you how to critical think, because you're going to leave me. Of course, nobody ever emails me after they leave; they just go off. But anyway, and I said I want you to be able, when you see something about a cleanse or a detox, you say, wait. Let me see what science. I want to teach you how to really go through it and say, is this really based on good science? And Tim, I have a great background in nutrition, and I will get online and Google something, and something will come back that's crazy, and I'm reading. I said, this sounds really convincing, and I know it's wrong, but it's like the way it's written. It's like, well, this is pretty convincing, and I'm saying they write it in such a way that if you really don't understand it, or understand the science behind it, or understand you have to critically think, their marketing is unbelievable.
It is. I think you're right about that. And unfortunately, I think it's getting increasingly difficult.
Right.
They're getting better and better at using sciencey language to legitimize their practices, so it kind of sounds real. I call it science exploitation, where they'll take a real area of science. A really good example now is the microbiome and this gut health.
Right.
So now detoxes, cleanses, supplements are all justified based on their microbiome research, which is real, and it's an exciting area. Mm-hmm. But what they'll do is they'll use that terminology to give their product this veneer of scientific legitimacy, and it makes it, like as you just pointed out, it makes it really tough to tease out the real stuff from the nonsense.
Right. I mean, just the word microbiome, you're like, oh, I've heard of that. Now, you ask somebody on the street, I heard that, and I heard it's good. I don't really know what it's about, but I heard it's good. So this, whatever product, must be on top of the science. So they put the two together, and it's big business. It is big business. This kind of selling.
It's huge.
Right.
The one estimate suggests it's $4.2 trillion worldwide is the wellness industry, right? It is a huge industry, and they use, as you just said, they use these terms like they use quantum physics, right? They throw that phrase in there. They use stem cells. That's everywhere.
Right.
We've actually studied that.
Yes.
They use that, and genomics. They throw that in there just to give legitimacy to their product.
Right. It's very, very true. Trillions of dollars. T as in trillion. Oh my goodness gracious! I thought it would just be as in billion, but what do I know? Wow. Oh my goodness. So that is frightening. That's really frightening. And as you said, that the FDA jumps on things when there's complaints, but oftentimes they make a lot of money before there's complaints. Then there'll be a complaint. The FDA may step in. The product will go away. And guess what? It comes back very quickly under another name, another title. So that's why it's buyer beware. And you really have to make sure that you get your information from someone that knows what they're talking about and do no harm. Besides Gwyneth, what other celebrities do you find are out there that are big as far as projecting health and wellness information that a lot of college students are looking to follow?
Well, there really are so many. But let's use one, so we're not just picking on women here, that I think you and I can relate to, and that, of course, is my idol, Tom Brady.
I just want to tell people this story and go back. I met this lovely man, Tim Caulfield, in Vienna in 2017, and he was the speaker, of course. And I tell you, if you're ever in a neighborhood that he's speaking, go run and go listen to him give a lecture on this, because it's phenomenal. But anyway, in the beginning of these lectures, as a speaker, you always have to make your disclosures. You know, you have to say, like, okay, my funding, my research was funded by X, or I am on the advisory board of this, company or organization or whatever. So I will never forget this, Tim. Your disclosure was, I just want to tell you that I'm from Canada, but I grew up in Massachusetts, and I am, a crazy New England Patriots fan, and I would give a kidney to Tom Brady. This is how you started this lecture. I will never forget this. And then my question to you, my follow-up question is, would you give both kidneys?
You know what? If it could secure a win, probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay, good man. There's no I in team. That's good man, babe. Good man.
That's
okay.
right.
That's good. All right, so you talk about Tom, who is beloved in New England, but go ahead.
But he's a great example of, a celebrity that is pushing nonsense. He's got this TB12 product line, right. And there is no science to back up any of it. And it's presented in, it kind of is a male-focused Gwyneth, branding, because he presents it as if there is science there, and he uses sciencey sounding words like pliability. I went and saw a game at Foxborough, so I went by his store, and there are all these T-shirts with the word pliability on it, as if that was enough to say it works, right?
Right.
No evidence to back up any of that stuff,
right?
And you can't help but be swayed. And athletes in general, I think, are, I get this a lot. I don't know if you get this too from people in the public say, well, if an athlete is using it, it must work. They wouldn't use it if it didn't work. Well, it's actually quite the opposite. They are under so much pressure to try anything to get an edge, to be on that field faster, recover faster. So they're actually a source of misinformation, and they create this impression that they have the keys to some secret knowledge, right? When that's not the case, at all. And so Tom, unfortunately, is another good example. The other good example is Jessica Alba with her Honest company. That company drives me nuts, because not only does it push misinformation about stuff, but it's really founded on fear-mongering, right? That it's almost like we live in this dystopian world that we need to protect our kids from. And if you're not protecting your kids by using these products, you're almost an irresponsible parent. So that company also I think it's worth $1 billion.
When I was a parent raising the kids, and I'm sure you did the same thing, is that you don't know what you're doing. And then, I don't know if there's a handbook, but you don't have time to read it. So you are so nervous about raising kids that you will believe anything and protect them. So something like, if you're saying, if you don't use these diapers, or if you don't do this, your child's going to get ill. You're so nervous about that. And you talk about it, it's fearful. And people, again, don't follow the science, and they get, they're worried if they don't do it, something's going to go bad. On Netflix, there was one that I was glued to, and you called it Beauty Bias. So what was that about?
Yeah, that was in our episode on cosmetic surgery, which we actually filmed a lot of it in Korea, which was an amazing experience, because cosmetic surgery has been completely normalized there. It's viewed as something that you ought to do, and sort of, why wouldn't you do it? And the way the beauty bias comes up is it's this real biological response that we have, cognitive bias we have to people who are more attractive. But you can see everything from income to grades to how you think of your professor to on and on is beauty, your attractiveness has an impact. It's almost entirely positive, not 100%. There are these rare situations where it's not ideal. But in general, our world favors attractive people. So you can understand this compulsion, right? To want to improve your looks. And then layer on top of that social media, and we have these we are constantly looking at pictures of other people. Our phones have become social comparison machines, right? And that creates, I think, a lot of social angst, and I think a lot of weird pressures, particularly for the young, but ultimately for all of us.
Right. And that's, I mean, this is the truth that, you used to get advice, from your immediate family, your friends, your cousins, whatever, for any health or wellness. Oh, go see this doctor, go take this, blah, blah, blah. But now the world is your advice. Like, you could get on social media, Facebook, Google, and Instagram, because Instagram can now have these gorgeous pictures. I took this supplement and this is what happened. And it's frightening. It's really, really frightening where people can fall prey to believing, like what you just said, that if you take this, eat that, or whatever, this is going to be really fabulous for you. And Instagram, is booming now, and is very, very popular among college students.
It is very influential.
Right.
In fact, we did a study, my colleague, Sandra Marcon, one of our wonderful researchers, did a study on Instagram and breastfeeding, and how breastfeeding is portrayed on Instagram. And that turned out to be a good news story because, it's portrayed very positively, and it creates tolerance. So that's a good example of how pop culture can be a good force, right? Creating tolerance and acceptance. But then you have the other stuff. You have this Fitspiration, all these things, these Fitspiration Instagram sites, and this is images of women primarily, but men also, who are ridiculously fit, right? And this is supposed to be it's supposed to be inspiring, hence inspiration, but really just makes you feel bad about your normal body, right?
But how much of that is photoshopped?
Oh, a huge percentage. I've talked about this in some of my presentations. What's interesting, because people say, "Oh, celebrities have always been around." It's true, but we're not talking Grace Kelly in the pages of Life magazine. That was like this other world, right? They felt distance and almost like it was a fantasy. Now you have celebrities that are sending you a picture of themselves from their bathroom and from their kitchen, and it looks very intimate, but in fact, that is still highly curated, right? And often completely staged.
Right.
And there's this illusion of closeness, this illusion of reality that I think heightens the influence that they can have over all of us.
Right.
We should remember how problematic searches can be, right? I mean, if you search a phrase, and I've done this for a number of topics, often the first page will have, results that are not necessarily that accurate. And even the top snippet, which is what is read by, your computer, if you ask, your phone, if you ask for help from Google to get a verbal response, is inaccurate, right? That top snippet is inaccurate. And research tells us that most people, 95%, don't go past the first page, and 30% only look at the top snippet, right? So search terms and search results in themselves can be very misleading. So you've got to be critical there.
Tim, why are they inaccurate? Are they paid? They are paying to become first? They're paying to be pushed up in the findings? Why are they mostly inaccurate?
It's all of the above, right?
Okay.
It's what is searched the most, and I find that with the most polarized topics that'll happen, right? Because you get people searching and tagging the polarized debate, right? So you get the good stuff and the bad stuff. For example, I did one. I searched raw milk, right? And the tag, the snippet at the top was from a pseudoscientist, right? Complete nonsense. And that's what was read, but it was part of this polarized debate. And out of the top 10 results, only 2 were scientifically accurate in any way. So that gives you a real sense of how problematic that can be.
So that's a great point. In other words, you assume if it's topped, it's tops, but it isn't. It's more likely to be inaccurate, so go down deeper.
Number one, I mean, this seems obvious, but I'll say it anyway. Remember to think critically. And I still do this. I still remind myself, sort of what you said earlier, right? You get sucked into the narrative, you get pulled into the presentation. Remember to think critically and ask yourself, what was the source of the information? What type of evidence was involved here? Was it is it quality research? Is it just, correlation, or is there actually causation here? What conflicts of interest might be involved?
Sure.
Number two, I say, look for a reputable science-based source. develop some trusted sources of information that speak to you and that that you've already kind of vetted, so you can go back to them. And there's great stuff out there. There really is. But find what works for you, and remember, a testimonial, no matter how compelling, whether it's Tom Brady or Gwyneth Paltrow, is not good evidence. Look for that. I always say, look for a body of evidence. Don't believe just one study. Look for a body of evidence.
That's so funny about the testimonials, because when you ever go to a lot of these websites that sell products, supplements or whatever, they'll always show you someone in a white lab coat with a stethoscope around their neck, playing the doctor. And I would say to my students in class, does that look like a doctor? I mean, who dresses like that? But they always put up that one picture, making it like, okay, a doctor, okay, this.
Yeah, and there'll be a beaker with blue fluid in it. Right?
There you go. Right. Not red, but blue. Right. That's right.
You're right. You're absolutely right about that. And there's really interesting research, and we're doing a little work on this topic ourselves, that testimonials are very persuasive, right? They're very persuasive. So, guard yourself against that. And the last one, probably a good idea to limit your social media use. I love social media. I'm on it a lot. And there is really good content out there, and it's a great way to get that information. But there's also research that says, it can be harmful if you're on there too much. There's a lot of useless stuff and a lot of noise that can affect how we think about things. Right. So I guess, the key is to be strategic how you use social media.
Right. And as you said, is, maybe follow people who are credible, that are giving you the right information, accurate, and do no harm, and it's based on science. If you hear from Tim Caulfield, it is spot on. How does that sound? It is.
I like that endorsement.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tim. And again, we will put all the links to his fabulous books and his Netflix show on Spot On Facebook page. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Spot On. I am your host, Dr. Joan Salge Blake. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Joan Salge Blake. Please subscribe to Spot On through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. Also, visit our Facebook page to join the conversation and tell us what you'd like to hear in future episodes. And oh, by the way, could you ask 5 of your friends or family members to download Spot On and subscribe to it? Do I ask a lot from you?